Well, I can't tell you what their intentions are, but I can tell you that through their inaction, they are failing, that they are allowing tens of thousands of people. Well, actually, Customs and Border Patrol has had over 1.3 million contacts through the end of August. And I was told by the folks down there on the border, that means that when somebody gets to our country and is put in custody, they're released. So it could be up to like 600,000, maybe 400,000 people have been released into our country with a court date in the future. But that court date may be 2 years down the road. That's why one of the things we said is the president has to really take steps. We've laid out a 10-point plan to be able to address this crisis right now. And one of them is to end this catch and release process, because that's what's incentivizing people to come here. And it makes it very difficult to enforce all of our other border laws.
Yeah, Governor, I want to talk about that 10-point plan. Can you walk us through some of the aspects of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest key here is that the Biden administration reinstated the catch and release program. That means that anytime somebody who comes here illegally sets foot on U.S. soil and gets put into custody, there's a good chance that they're going to be released and with a court date, like I said, in the future, and then they can just disappear. They don't have to come back for that court date, or even if they do, oftentimes they're given time to settle their affairs because they've been here for a couple of years, and so they'll just disappear again. But there's other things that we need to do besides ending that: the Remain in Mexico policy, continuing to build the border wall. The administration needs to send the message: don't come to the United States illegally. There needs to be a strong and loud message. And then, of course, we need more resources. We need more law enforcement. We need more judicial resources to end. There's about a 1 million person backlog of these court dates. Our Customs and Border Patrol need the support of the administration. We asked them to call out more National Guard to be able to help out with the border. So we laid out 10 steps that the administration could do that would start taking immediate steps to be able to end this crisis right now.
Yeah, if they're serious, they'd listen to at least a few of those, you would think. I wanted to ask you about resettlements, Governor. What you're hearing from your colleagues in the states about resettlements of these folks that are coming across the border, and the impact and the strain on either law enforcement, social services, or states in general. Because again, I think that we're hearing that these folks are going to come in. A lot of them are being released, or we're paying for bus tickets, plane tickets, and we're sending them into the interior of the country. What are your colleagues saying about that?
Well, one of the problems is that the federal government does not work with states when it comes to resettling people or even letting us know who's coming to our state. They work directly with other agencies, non-government organizations. And, when we were down the border, my colleague Kim Reynolds was talking about how they had, planes coming into the state of Iowa in the middle of the night, that unaccompanied minors were deplaning, getting on buses. It looked like it was sex trafficking. And the federal government denied it was them up until Kim Reynolds was going to start getting her own law enforcement to intercept these, and then they finally admitted it was them. And the same thing happened in Tennessee with Governor Bill Lee. So the federal government is really trying to hide what they're doing here. They're not owning up to it. They're not working with states. And so it really makes it very difficult for us. And I can tell you, having my state troopers down on the southern border there in Texas, the law enforcement's overwhelmed down there. There are just so many people coming across. This is not an illegal immigration problem. It's a mass migration problem.
Right. The Biden administration and the left, they're not thrilled that states like Nebraska are getting involved in this issue. And it does look like we are kind of heading for a federal-state standoff in some fashion. And the first piece of this would be trying to prevent the resettlements. Has your counsel suggested, or have your other colleagues looked into the issue of states preventing the federal government from resettling illegals within your borders without your permission?
Yeah, part of the problem is the federal government isn't even telling us what's going on. And so it's very difficult to even stop this type of activity because we just don't have any information. The federal government is being very opaque with regard to what they're actually doing. So part of it is just trying to get information from the federal government to be able to stop them. So it is really challenging for states to be able to stop some of this activity. But I can tell you, it makes a huge impact here. We just had a case where we had an unscrupulous employer who was taking advantage of illegal immigrants, giving their paycheck, exploiting them. That's the kind of thing that will happen when you allow folks who are going to be coming across, getting into the country illegally they're going to be taken advantage of, and it's going to create another separate type of crisis.
Yeah, and we are hearing that the amount of fentanyl and illegal drugs that are coming across the border is enough literally to kill everybody in the state of Texas, California, and New York combined, what they have managed to confiscate. I want to switch gears with you in my remaining 60 seconds with you, Governor. Energy prices are up, food prices are up, inflation is at its highest level in more than a decade. The Biden administration says that the solution to that is $5 trillion in additional spending, taxes, and welfare expansion. From a state perspective, how would this bill, and we've got the entire bill here, how would this bill impact Nebraskans and folks down in the heartland of this country?
Look, this is not rocket science. When you print a bunch more money, which is what we have been doing, and now you're going to threaten to print a bunch more money, you're just going to drive more inflation. And that's going to hurt your average American household. And people are feeling it. This is, when you print, if you used to have $10 in circulation, and now you got $20, things that used to cost $1 are now going to cost $2. And I don't care that the Fed thinks that this is transitory. It is not transitory. The supply chain disruption, the shortage of workers, the amount of money we've been printing, the inflation that we have is going to require the Fed to start tightening. Printing more money is going to just exacerbate this problem. It's going to make it worse.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.